Welcome back to Part Tea with Becky and Kenzie. Today's topic is in the spirit of the winter season. A lot of the winter has a lot to do with going within and embracing your darkness. So that is our topic for today. And when we think about darkness, a lot of times we are taught to avoid those dark times and avoid those uncomfortable emotions because it does come with pain of the past or uncertainty of certain outcomes. But it's important to note that darkness can be actually our biggest teachers because even though it comes with all of those, discomforting emotions and things to deal with, we have to try to be comfortable with that uncomfortableness to try and learn from it. As humans and people, we all inherently want to feel safe and have certainty. So we try to stick to the things that give us that, whether they're staying in the same relationships or certain jobs or, not taking certain opportunities because they're too scary. So we try to stay safe and certain in our actions and in our relationships because that's what we're used to and that's what feels good and doesn't cause this discomfort. But when darkness does arise, that's when we get thrown off because we don't know what to do with everything that comes along with it when we're so used to sticking in this safety mindset. So, again, even though darkness is accompanied with all these heavy qualities, beautiful things really can come from it. So that's what we want to kind of show you guys today is that embracing your darkness is actually a good thing. So, for example, nature shows us time and time again how darkness can breed beautiful things, whether you are putting a seed in the ground in dark, cold soil and then it bears beautiful fruit, or how the sun rises after darkness every day, or how caterpillars are, going into this dark cocoon to then transform into this beautiful butterfly. We can go on and on with how nature shows us how darkness actually breeds these beautiful things. It's a birthplace for new and abundant change. So when we talk about embracing your darkness, we want you to think of it in that way in order to sort of reset your mindset and rebuild yourself from within. Again, that darkness makes you go inside to figure out how do we change things to make the outside world better for ourselves. So stepping into the unknown, which is again that darkness, that dark place is very unknown. It gives us the space to be able to observe all of our patterns so that we can break the ones that are no longer healthy for us. It's definitely uncomfortable. Again, you're going to be outside your comfort zone when you're doing this, but that's where your awareness grows. That's how you can transform your life. If you stay doing the same thing over and over again and stay comfortable, you're never going to learn from that. So kind of pushing yourself outside that comfort zone and learning what may have caused darkness in your life, whether it's family conditioning, societal conditioning, mental patterns, negative patterns in relationships or just daily life. Figuring out all those things and working on healing them is really what will broaden your awareness and allow you to heal your shadow self. So Becky's going to go into a little bit more about the shadow self right now.
All right, so I have here Embracing Your Darkness, and I'm going to talk about that as well as shadow work. They kind of go hand in hand, and through our notes, you guys will see why. And I apologize if I'm repeating what Kenzie's saying. I'm trying to pay attention to what she's saying with Violet distracting me. So I have here, embracing your darkness is becoming aware of what's hidden and gradually healing those parts. Your darkness shrinks the more you shine light on it. And doing the shadow work is making the unconscious conscious and the unacceptable acceptable. So the shadow work, which is your shadow self, and that means all the parts that make you you. So it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, not just this love and light stuff that we portray on social media. Fake spirituality is all about positive and perfect love. Real spirituality, it's dirty, it's messy, and it's all the parts of you. I'll probably repeat that a lot because it's an important piece to this, not just your good parts. Shadow work is bringing to light the things that you've repressed, which is also known as your dark side. The shadow grows the more you repress things. The shadow is unseen, but it affects everything that we do. And we'll go into the conscious and subconscious mind a little bit later. The shadow is the reason we do certain things in life without understanding why we do it. So your habits, your daily routine, your automatic responses, or your automatic routines that you do daily. Your unconsciousness shapes your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And we would like to focus on not letting our past control us, which is past traumas, past mistakes, past failures. We'll go into allowing yourself to forgive yourself, how to be kind and gentle to yourself, and have grace with yourself when you're doing this work, when you're embracing your darkness, when you're doing your shadow work. Your shadow self shows you what you want by giving you cues, whether that's in your body or in your thoughts. Embracing your darkness clears energy, removes fear, heals, heightens self-awareness, and your darkness might not be as dark as you think it is inside your head. And this is one of the keys to living a more balanced life.
I love that. Yeah, I think one of the things to also recognize is that shadow work is happening whether you're aware of it or not, too. Like that conscious, unconscious part of you is already doing this shadow work, but once you become aware of it, that's when the real healing starts. So we're always doing shadow work, whether we know it or not, but when you do, it makes it a whole lot easier to kind of, like you said, live that more balanced life. So benefits, I guess. Well, first, what is shadow work? So Becky kind of touched on all of the things that encompass what shadow work is, and it's just the process of sort of deconditioning and unlearning all of those negative things that we were taught to believe and see and feel and understand, and then work on those and heal those by trying to figure out, what are your triggers, recognizing when these old patterns pop up, how can we change them and work on them and break them down. Again, once you become aware of your shadow work and start actively doing shadow work, that's when the healing process really begins. So benefits of doing shadow work is you have a more pleasant life for yourself. There's more joy because, again, that darkness is shrinking and that light is increasing. There's less suffering. Your relationships with others and yourself become better. You're able to understand your purpose and your life path a lot more, where you fit in society. There's more self-love involved, just overall better self-awareness and connection with your highest self. So shadow work is the absolute key to the highest self-awareness that you can have. But again, like Becky said, when we reject things or resist things or suppress things, or we're ignoring things, that's what feeds the shadow. So we want to try to not do those things and unfeed the shadow. Anything that you're ashamed of, your secrets, unfulfilled desires, these are all things that feed the shadow, and we really want to try to minimize those things and bring more light in. So shadow work is definitely Not an easy thing to do, but it certainly pays off. Like we said, darkness is uncomfortable, but the things and the beauty that comes out of it is going to be so much greater than the pain and the discomfort that you've gone through. So I think next we're going to be going into how to find the shadow.
Yes, I have here. I always love a good how-to or directions. Like
Yes.
we can talk about all this stuff and it's like, but how do you do it? Like how
Yeah.
so one of the ways, and I'll give you guys some examples. So projection. When people project their issues onto you, and I know we've talked about this before,
Mhm.
but they do this because they dislike something in themselves. So they point it out to you and say it to you. And I've had this many, many times. People have projected and is depending on if I'm feeling sensitive or stronger, I guess, where unshakable. I go back and forth between unshakable and sensitive. So
Mhm.
depending what mood they catch me in, it can really upset me
Right.
or it can make me really angry. So part of the projection is repressed anger, guilt, shame, and things that they don't like about themselves that they're projecting onto others. One of the ways you can find your shadow is become aware of how you're projecting yourself to the outside world. And the universe works as a mirror to reflect back to us who we really are through people, places, and things.
I didn't
So,
even see that you wrote that, and I was gonna say, like, what do you think about the saying that there's a mirror in everyone that you meet, that they're, like, just showing you parts about yourself that you don't like? Like, the things that annoy you are things in yourself that maybe you do.
yeah, or if I'm in a super negative mindset, I'm attracting people who are
Right.
negative, complaining. I
Yeah.
just had something happen yesterday. So yesterday was the full moon, the hunter's full moon.
Mhm.
So, which I enjoyed writing my notes for this yesterday, like finishing
Yeah.
up what I had started before, but then really just like reading what I wrote and making it into words instead of gibberish. And Violet and I had a little incident yesterday on our walk last night. So we're walking on our normal walking path, and this lady behind us comes around, passes us, and then turns around and says to me, "Oh, you're going to have a diva on your hands." So now I'm like, like this, I get this posture and this face that's like fight mode, but I can't like fight somebody because I'm violent. And and I just look at her and she goes, "Oh, I've been watching her play with her hair this whole time." So I'm like, "Oh." So then, I'm kind of like in slow motion and I'm just like, "Yeah, she plays with her hair when she's tired." Just like no emotion, just
Right.
like staring like into her eyes, like through her soul. Then she's going on and on. I don't even know what she was saying because it was gibberish,
Yeah.
but I think that when we talk about labels, so your children, babies, kids, the shadow work
Mhm.
starts with them. It starts when we're very, very young. So her seeing someone label her, and I chose to say something. So when that lady is basically putting a judgment on her, calling her something negative, like in a negative
Mhm.
tone, I'm not just going to be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And to her, then that means, oh, that people can tell me who I am.
Right.
So I might not be as quick because I don't go out expecting or looking for fights. So
Right.
I think that when people they're vomiting, they're
Yeah.
projecting onto me, strangers, it takes me a minute to be like,
Have a
what
response.
just happened? Like
Yeah.
what, my brain is not I'm not in fight mode. But now it's like, okay, now we're fighting.
Yeah.
And
But
Violet even, yeah, her posture, she was kind of like what she was just doing now when she doesn't like something and she's like, she was
yeah,
doing that and I was holding her hand. And she was kind of hiding behind me.
yeah, because she
Her
didn't.
body language changed because she didn't like this lady. I definitely didn't like this lady because I didn't ask for your opinion.
I was gonna say,
And
what made her feel like she had to tell you that, even if she felt that way, like
yeah, so
continue to talk.
that's an example of a projection.
Yeah.
So that is just one example of projection when someone does it to you. I'm sure this is one of the things that I try not to do because it's been done to me so many times, whether it's friends, family, strangers. I try to be as conscious as possible, not to project.
Mhm.
I more so do this internally. So I don't know if that's I don't know what it's called when you're like self something. Like when
Almost like self-sabotage
like
kind of.
self-sabotage, I guess. Okay, so the second way to help find your shadow is through triggers. So a trigger is a reminder of a past trauma. They're messages to become conscious of something that is buried deeply within. Pay attention to your triggers. They will easily show your shadow self. Another way to flip this around to actually use your triggers to be helpful. So triggers are reflections of deep unresolved wounds. They open your eyes to suppress things. So instead of having an emotional reaction, which I know when I'm triggered, emotion, like
Yeah.
it's an automatic response. So we can, instead of doing that, we can think of triggers as invitations to go deeper into unconscious things. Calling our triggers invitations decreases the effect they have on you. So I know one of the things my therapist in the beginning said to me, she said, you don't always have to RSVP to every invitation you're invited to. Like basically every fight that you're invited to, you don't always have to respond. So calling triggers invitations decreases the effect they have on you, and it allows you to step back from your emotional reaction and observe it instead of living it.
Mhm.
So you're, instead of being in the past, being stuck in that trigger, being stuck in the past,
Yeah.
you're the outsider looking in. You're watching, you're observing, you're seeing
Right.
how your trigger is unfolding to then work with it in a positive light.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting how triggers work too, because something that could trigger something that was suppressed, you could have heard over and over again throughout your life, and it was never a trigger for you, but all of a sudden you're more awakened, or you went through other things, and now all of a sudden this is a trigger for you. So like it's interesting to, like you said, observe those things, because something that you could have heard over and over again or could have happened to you over and over again could have never been a conscious trigger for you until that part of you is awakened. And like then you have to go deeper and figure out like, okay, why is this just triggering me now when I've been exposed to this multiple times before? Because I know that's definitely what had happened with me. Like whatever made me kind of uncover my past trauma was something that I had heard all the time, but I never related it to myself until one day I heard it in a different way. And I was like, oh, that's what happened to me. Like, you don't recognize it sometimes until you're ready. And that's something that's interesting with shadow work too, is like it will meet you where you're at. It's not going to show you something that you're not ready to hear or to deal with, or that you're not capable of, healing. So I thought that was really interesting in the triggers part of things.
And I think that also has to do with conscious and subconscious
Yeah.
mind. So it's
Mhm.
we're hearing things or doing things automatically, and
Yeah.
then one day something, like that's why I'm so fascinated with like the mind and how it
Yeah.
works. And I'm like, I'm going to be talking about something that I'm no expert in. I'm no
Yeah.
scientist, like how the brain works. But I just find that really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And the last, or I guess the third part to how to find your shadow is patterns. So how you just mentioned, you're hearing things over and over. So repeating patterns are expressions of the shadow.
Mm.
The shadow wants you to become aware of it, and the shadow wants to be accepted. Just like we want to be accepted by people, our peers in life, online, wherever we go, your shadow repeats the same patterns in different situations, waiting to be seen so you can finally break that cycle.
Wow. Yeah.
Embracing your darkness is necessary if you want a better quality of life. And the most important part to this on how to do all these things and all the tips and tricks and tools that we're going to talk about, no one can do this work for you. You have to do this work for yourself. And that also is very powerful because you're becoming more powerful, more rooted into who you truly are, so that nobody, so like that lady that pissed me off, you know, maybe one day things like that won't bother me as much, but for now, I'm annoyed.
Yeah. I think too, like as like I consider like I guess us like self-healers and we're definitely empaths. So like when you have those qualities about yourself, you sometimes unknowingly want to heal other people, but then there's like that boundary, like are you overstepping by trying to show them their own shadow? It's like you can't, they need to find that within themselves. Because I catch myself sometimes like I want to help you. Like I know the things that are triggering you, and I try to tell people, and then they just get annoyed because it's like, oh, you're telling me what to do, or you're telling me about my own self, and it's like that's not going to help them. So like as a healer, it's hard for me to step back and be like, okay, they need to figure it out on their own, because we can recognize it all day long in other people, but if they're not recognizing it in themselves, the work's not going to be done. So I find that a little bit of a struggle for me that I'm learning to kind of step back and let people do their own healing.
One of the things, it just reminded me of something my therapist had said to me, and I was um, going through something similar. And she said to me, she goes, "You don't have that much power over people that you think you do."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and it kind of snapped me out of it. Like,
Yeah.
so like these simple phrases or simple advice, it's not overly complicated, kind of snaps your brain out of a way that you're thinking or the way that
Yeah.
you're doing things. And it's like, oh, and also too, why, and especially I think now as a mom. So I was definitely doing that before, like, oh, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. And I was expending so much energy. And now as a mom, like 99% of my energy goes to Violet. I give myself
Yeah.
1%. 99% goes to Violet. So I don't have extra energy to help someone that doesn't
See
maybe
it.
reach out to me or see it themselves first.
Right.
People need to see it for themselves. They need to want to do it, want to be ready. Look at, what is it? Direct sales, network marketing, essential oils. Like,
Yeah.
how many people? No, 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 no. Like the
Yeah.
rejection of that, they don't see it. Or, you know, you're pushing a product onto somebody that doesn't see what you see. You're
Right.
wasting time, you're wasting energy,
Yeah.
and you're depleting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I think, keeping you in like that low vibe, low
Yeah.
energy, um,
Yeah.
it brings
Vibration.
that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to like, I guess the biggest like takeaway from that is like you just have to meet people where they're at. Like if they're not ready to jump in with you, you can plant the seeds, but then leave it alone. And when they're ready to come back to you if they need help with something, then you meet them where they're at with where they are in their healing. Because it's just like it's natural for us to want to help other people get to this level of healing because we know how like amazing it can be to have this more fulfilling life when you do this healing, but you can't force someone to do it who's not ready to. So that about concludes part 1 of Embracing Your Darkness, which we only just touched on the surface of everything. In part 2, we're going to be going into a little bit deeper into the subconscious mind and how that affects your shadow work and embracing your darkness. So stay tuned.